Alright everybody, welcome back to B Mother Reviews, and today we've got, in my opinion, one of the most severely, almost criminally underrated characters from the Marvel Universe, and this is Moon Knight from XM Studios. Now this statue was one of the first on XM's made-to-order platform, and there's only 270 of these made worldwide. So, what that tells me is he's not very well known in the general public, but for me, Moon Knight is easily within my top 5 favorite Marvel characters of all time. So, for me, that dates back to the Marvel Series 1 trading cards. It's the first time I can remember seeing Moon Knight, and I love this card set. So much of what I love about Marvel dates back to that set. I was flipping through the binder to get this card out. Awesome series of cards. I love the facts on the back. It's got his win-loss record. It's got a little factoid at the bottom. His strength increases or decreases depending on the phases of the moon. And then it's got his backstory. Mark Spector, ruthless mercenary, was killed on a mission in Egypt and then brought back to life by the Egyptian moon god Khonshu, and then sent to be Khonshu's sort of agent of vengeance and protector of the innocent on Earth. So, cool backstory. But what that leaves out is that Mark Spector also battles a mental illness. So he's got a very real-world problem mixed in with his supernatural abilities. He has a dissociative personality disorder. He has 4 distinct personalities that he flips back and forth between. He's got, of course, Mark Spector, the original. He's got Stephen Grant, who is sort of this wealthy Wall Street guru who has established this vast fortune, almost limitless funds for him to develop his weaponry and his vehicles and things. Sort of like a Bruce Wayne type personality. And he's got Jake Lockley, who is a New York City cab driver and sort of in tune with the seedy side of society, and kind of represents the darker areas of Mark Spector's mind. And then, of course, number 4 is the Moon Knight himself. And so, as I said, very real-world problems for a character who has these exceptional abilities, and he's constantly battling himself, mostly. So very cool storylines around this character. I really recommend that you check him out if you don't know him already. And so you can start, if you're interested, back with some of the original books. This is the start of an old ongoing series. He had appeared well before this and had many appearances actually, but this series starts again and kind of retells his origin. So you can start back there if you like. Or if you're looking for something a little bit more modern, this series here by Jeff Lemire is excellent. Definitely recommend you check this one out too. So these books probably fairly easy to find in trades, so you can look into the character that way. So 2 series to check out. Very, very cool character. And I'm so glad that XM chose to add him to their lineup. So we're going to get into the review. We're going to do our countdown, my 3 favorite things about this statue. But first, this statue has a few issues that you should know about before you decide to make the purchase. So we're going to get into those few issues first, and then we're going to start the countdown. So let's get into it now. Alright, so I mentioned this statue has a few quirks, a few issues that you're going to want to know about before you buy it. Number 1 on this piece has got to be the cape. You get a little seam here where the cape sits into a groove on his shoulder, and that's sort of just to hold the cape in place, I think, but it's not a perfect fit, and you're going to have some noticeable gaps there. The fit between the head and the cape on mine originally was not good. There were significant gaps there. It is fixable. XM did release a video on their YouTube channel, on their Facebook page, where they take the cape off and dunk it in a pot of boiling water and sort of soften it up. You can try that, but I don't know about you, but I'm not super keen on taking my brand new $1,000 plus statue and dunking it in boiling water. So I use the collector's best friend, the hair dryer, and just sort of heated up this flat area here where it sits against the head. Got it a little warm, put the head on, and pushed it down hard until it sort of sunk into place and kind of remolded that area around the head. So I reduced the gap significantly here. There's still a little bit of a gap on this side. I'm just going to have to live with that. but I'm going to display it from this angle anyway, so I'm happy with what I was able to do there. Fairly easily fixable. Similarly, I had to heat this wing up on the base. It was originally off the base. I just sort of, some light heat, and I was able to get it up onto the base. So again, something you can fairly easily fix. Now, something that you don't typically expect on an XM statue is this statue is not the cleanest cast in the world. And what I mean is there's little bumps and nubs that you're going to notice around the body that probably should have been sanded off. Now, the statue originally, the digital sculpt, had a lot of texture all over the suit. And I don't know if that had something to do with this problem. It has lost a lot of the texture that you originally saw, that Caleb Nefson put into his sculpt. So again, I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Particularly messy in this area here on the belt. It's a little sloppy. The paint's a little sloppy in that area between the silver and the white. But, again, it's something that, you might be able to live with because this is probably the prime viewing angle here. You're not going to see it, but something that you don't typically expect from XM. But anyways, enough with the negative. We still have a pretty good Moon Knight statue here, and we're going to get into my 3 favorite things about the statue now. Let's focus on the positives. Let's do it. All right, so now we're going to get to the positives about this piece. We're going to count down my 3 favorite things about the statue. And at number 3 is the pose. Now, it's sort of a double-edged sword for this statue because it really doesn't have a lot of great display angles, but I really like the good ones that it does have. And it makes Moon Knight look like a hunter to me. And this character over the years has really kind of become more of a mature book. And he's a savage character. He's brutal. He will hunt down criminals and he will make them pay. And his weaponry, it's sort of this mixture of high tech, but it's all close range stuff where he's going to lay a beating hand to hand, face to face, and put fear into these criminals. And I like how he's sort of got the crescent darts here and he's showing them to you. And he's like, I'm going to hurt you and I'm going to hurt you bad. And he's got a really cool array of weaponry that I'm going to show you a bit later. But this is probably my favorite setup with the bow staff. And you can see he's got the spiked knuckles on that hand there. And the crescent darts I mentioned in this hand. Very cool pose. He looks like he's out on the prowl. And he's going to, beat some guys down tonight. So I really like the pose on this statue. And like I said, it does reduce the display ability, but I think it looks really good at its prime angles. Okay, so moving on to number 2 on my countdown for this statue, I really love the cape on this piece. And again, it's sort of a double-edged sword because it's the source of a couple of the more major issues that this statue had for me. And it kind of, in a way, blocks a lot of the body on the piece, but all that said, it looks awesome. I love what Caleb did with the sculpt here. Tons of wrinkles and folds. It's got this sort of tattered, worn look to it. It's not a perfect Batman style cape. It's got that chaotic look that Moon Knight should have, and I love how it flows here in sort of all different directions. You've got this sort of ragged edge along the bottom edge there. It just looks amazing what he's done here. I like the paint, how it's sort of got this dirty look around the bottom edge. I mean, this is a guy who's been out hunting criminals several times in the past, so an experienced crime fighter here. I mentioned that the body lost a little bit of the texture that was originally present in the digital sculpt. The cape still has it. It's got this sort of chaotic woven pattern to it. Again, perfect for Moon Knight, and it looks really, really nice. I should mention that part of the reason why you get that warpage in around the neck is that XM used a bit of a different material for this cape. And what it allowed them to do was go thinner with the cast. And for a cape, a sculpted cape, that's actually a good thing because it's got a more realistic thickness for a fabric element. So I really like that they made that move, even though it made me have to do a little bit of work to get that fit with the head. But I really like what they've done with this cape. I think it looks perfect on the statue. So that's at number 2 on my list. All right, so we have arrived at number 1. My most favorite thing about this statue is definitely the variety of weapons you get with this piece. Now, typically when I get a statue that has a bunch of switch out parts, I've got a pretty good idea what I'm going to display with way before I get the piece. But with this one, it's got me a little bit confused, I have to admit. I don't know which ones I like best. I like this look here with the bow staff. You got the spiked knuckles on that hand, the crescent darts and the fingers. So I like this look, but you know, if you don't like the crescent darts, pull that out. You can go with the empty hand here. Now, empty hands are just as lethal of a weapon for Moon Knight as anything else that he's got here. So he's sort of got the gnarled finger look. He's showing you how angry he is with that hand. Maybe you don't like the bow staff, so you could take that out and go with this sort of larger disc weapon, sort of a boomerang type thing. Again, sculpted hieroglyphs down the sides of that. Give it a really neat look. Maybe you need to reduce the height from the bow staff. This allows you to, reduce the overall height. Maybe you need that for your display. But maybe you don't like either of these. Take them both out. You can go with this sort of awesome, I don't know what you call that, sort of like a flail type of grappling hook, sort of maiming device, we'll call it. And you got, again, spiked knuckles on that hand. So you just put that in here, boom, and then you take this around and put it in there. So this is a really cool look as well. This is a real metal chain that it comes with. So nice touch there. I kind of wish the rest of the weapons were metal. These discs in his hand might be metal. I don't think they are, but they could be. I'm not 100% sure. But the other weapons are definitely not. And it would have been a really nice touch to have all metal weapons. Would have looked really cool. So you get some really cool display options with this piece. Now, I should point out it does have a swap out head. So I'll show that to you now. You've got this sort of Khonshu mask, bird mask that you can go with. And I'm not super interested in this portrait here. It does give you a little bit of a better angle from that side. So if you want to see more of his body, you might have to go with this option here. But for me, I mean, this isn't a look that Moon Knight's really known for. And to my knowledge, he's never actually worn this mask. That he does have, as I mentioned, in his head, all the different personalities. And the Khonshu avatar in his mind does wear that mask. So it does have a history with the Moon Knight book, but I don't think he's ever actually physically worn it himself. So not a look that I'm going to personally go with. I'm definitely going to go with the more traditional mask here. So lots of great switch outs though for this piece, as I mentioned. Great weapons. They're all very savage weapons that really suit the character, which is what is really important about these. So you got a lot of display options. I still don't know what I'm going to go with, so we'll have to wait and see. I might rotate these ones around. So great switch outs on this piece. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up this review. This is Moon Knight from XM Studios. And, off the top, we mentioned that the statue does have some issues that you don't typically expect on an XM piece. Some fitment issues between the head and the cape. Some noticeable gaps and seams here between the cape and the shoulder, between his calf and his hamstring there on the left leg. A little bit of a messy cast on the belt, especially noticeable on the belt. Some sloppy paint in that area as well. And, again, those are things you don't typically expect to see on an XM piece. But in my opinion, the positives that the statue has really outweighs any issues that it does have. And, he's got a really cool pose. It really sort of showcases the predatory nature of this character. I mean, he seeks out criminals so that he can dole out some savage and vicious, I don't want to call it justice, it is vengeance. He's a vicious character. And this pose, I think, really highlights that. I love the cape. I love the dynamic flow that it has. I love the tattered edges, the dirty stains along the bottom edge of that cape there. It's got some nice texture to it. It really adds a dynamic element to this piece. And of course the weapon array. I mean, he's got various ways here that he can hurt you, including an empty hand, which, as I said, could be just as deadly as anything else he's got here. So really cool switch outs with this piece. Great pose, great cape, and overall I think Moon Knight fans are going to be really happy with this piece. I'm happy to have it. I'm going to display it proudly, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is probably going to be the only licensed 1/4 Moon Knight we're ever going to see, or at least for a long time. So happy to have it. XM Studios Moon Knight I think turned out fairly well despite some of the flaws that it has. So I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Plenty more to come next year in 2019. So stay tuned to the channel. We're going to have lots for you guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon.